Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Big Bros podcast. If it is your first time joining, welcome. My name is Ilan, and I am joined by my lovely friend and co-host, Jeremy. How are we?
I'm well, mate. Couldn't be better. How are you?
Pretty good. Got a bit of that winter sniffle, but other than that, and you know what's ironic about
I'll keep
that
my
as well?
distance. Yes.
I had the flu vaccine a week and a half ago.
Oh, so
And I haven't really been unwell. No conspiracy theories. I'm just drawing an observation.
Okay, well, you're not the first to say that because some
Yeah.
patients during the week have said that to me as well. So they had the vaccine, then they got a little bit of a sniffle the week after, but maybe that is its effect in play.
Potentially. I have no idea. Hopefully, I don't get any influenza this year. So watch this space. But today, on a completely different topic, you and I are going to be discussing, and this is a topic that I think every man in their 20s tends to reflect upon at some point, and consistently as well, is how to actually be naturally attractive.
And to our amazing female listeners as well, this is an episode that you must be listening to because this will absolutely help you when it comes to recognizing what are the naturally attractive qualities in a man that you should be looking for. And I want to emphasize that naturally attractive qualities because there's been a lot of talk and a lot of trend around the whole looks maxing trend. And that's something to discuss another time. But
Not a fan?
Oh, not a fan at all. That is something that is a bit more superficial. This is something authentic and natural. What is naturally attractive in a man? These are the qualities that you men need to chase and you women need to also be mindful of in choosing your man.
But see what, this is just, I think this is more for, irrespective of the benefits that might accrue from the attraction perspective, I think these are just generally good qualities to have as a person, irrespective if you have a partner or not. I think your quality of life will just be better. And I'm not just talking about the prerequisites like taking care of your health, your exercise, your sleep, good nutrition, being a good human. This is goes a bit deeper than that.
We're going to go a little bit deeper.
So I'm going to start us off quickly and I'll get your thoughts. But setting clear non-negotiables about the person you want to be. What do I mean by that? Are you looking at every self-boundary you have about who you want to be, the rules that you make, the terms and conditions that define who you are, and do you break them consistently?
And hopefully people read these terms and conditions because normally we flick past them, don't we?
That's a great call. And we don't want to, look, if Apple has a terms and conditions, we can skip that. But when it comes to ourselves, look at every single time that you feel a bit shitty about yourself. Does that correlate with you potentially breaking your own self-boundary? And why I think this is such an important thing is because a lot of things that we do in a conscious way tends to have a subconscious message to it. So every time we break a personal principle of ours because we're feeling a bit hedonistic or we're a bit lazy or there's other influences at play, we naturally subcommunicate to ourselves that we're not someone that's worthy of having boundaries. And the thing is, other people can look into that, they can suspect that, they can sniff it from a mile away. So say you're talking to someone and they are always and let's say you're in the friend zone. It's actually a good example. Like one of the top dating advice for people who are stuck in the friend zone is every time they ask you to do something and you have plans, don't just put your plans to the side in service of their every need that they have, because that's showing them that you don't actually have any boundaries or self-respecting boundaries that you want to uphold. You want to show the people around you, but most importantly, you want to show yourself that you're someone worth respecting. The best way to do that is to sub-communicate to the people around you that you have terms and conditions that you're not willing to break.
Yeah. And like what you said, the signaling aspect is what I want to dial into there because what you abide by for yourself, that is ultimately what other people are going to see. So if you're not acting in accordance to what your terms and conditions are for yourself, and I'm not going to list a whole lot of set values here because likely you guys are going to be aware of what those values might be, whether it's regards to health and fitness and whatnot. But you need to abide by that because then that'll signal to others that you are a person that does uphold those values. That is very attractive. That is a very attractive quality to have. What is the second one?
Being able to regulate. And when I say regulate, I mean not necessarily not experiencing a difficult emotion. Experience difficult emotion, but manage it effectively. There is nothing more attractive, not just from a pure sexual or romantic aspect, but nothing more attractive about an individual when you can tell that they're going through the pits they acknowledge that they're going through the pits. They're experiencing some really difficult emotions. They might be scared, but they have this ability to remain almost stoic on the outside, and they exude a sense of leadership in the process. Jordan Peterson actually has this quote where he says to young men, you want to strive to be the strongest person at your own dad's funeral. And he doesn't really explain what that actually means. You can kind of derive from that sentence what you want. The way I've always interpreted it is you're the sort of person that even in spite of what might be happening, in spite of the emotional troughs you're experiencing, you're still capable of managing what you do with your feelings. Why is that important, Jeremy? It's because if you're in a relationship with someone and shit hits the fan, you both cannot be in a position or state where your emotions are going up and down, up and down, up and down. One person, whether it's you or your partner, one person ultimately needs to be the rock.
I think a key point there is separating the relationship side of things from the emotions. So we all have relationships in our lives. We all have, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's a relationship with your mother, your father, a sibling, a best friend. When it comes to regulating emotions, true maturity is seen when you can separate the bias that you have with regards to your relation to that person. So let's take it is your girlfriend, for example. You love this person, but you are feeling pretty down about something, and you're not allowing that relationship side of things to impede how you are when you come to regulate your emotions. So you're feeling an emotion and you're really locking into how you're regulating that emotion right there in that moment, irrespective of what your relationship is like with that person. That shows a lot of maturity because you're able to showcase to that person in front of you that you ultimately have a strong sense of self-worth, and you're able to recognize that I'm feeling a certain way right now. I'm really sad, or I'm really pissed off. And yes, I love you. I love you so much. You know how much I love you, but you've hurt me right now. And I'm going to tell you why you've hurt me, and I'm going to explain it irrespective of what my love is for you. And the same goes for the other way. If that person has voiced to you that they are upset about something, for example, and you've made them feel uncomfortable, or you've made them feel upset about something, you can't just turn around and say, oh, but it's okay, we love each other, we're in a loving relationship, or you're my best mate, get over it. It's just a bit of banter. You can't use that. You need to separate the relationship side of things when that person is talking to you about their emotions, and regulate what that emotion is for them and for you in that moment, irrespective of what the relationship is. So that shows ultimate maturity.
So you're speaking of something that we call co-regulation, and it's the fact that you want to create a space where you can hold space for someone when they're going through a difficult period. What does that mean if you're a man in a relationship, for example? It's knowing that you can allow your partner to express and feel every bit of emotion that they're experiencing without you taking that to heart. Now, yes, there's limits to this. If they start insulting you and hurling out really disgusting things, there's obviously a limit. Like if they're outwardly disrespecting you. But I'm also talking about cases where, they're dysregulated, they're upset, they're angry. Notice the feeling and thought that comes up for you when you're feeling dysregulated. If you want to get good at this skill, the best way is to actually get aware of the thought and the sensations that come up for you. Because when something shits you off, Jeremy, it's very easy between shit pissing you off and you behaving impulsively. And what you want to really do is increase the time between shit pissing you off and your response. And the best way to do that is notice the hot potato that is emerging and circulating in you. The longer you can do that, the better your skill becomes. Now,
and just on that as well, I think it's really important to note the fact that it's not just about you in the moment. It's about that person that you are with too. So it's providing a space where you're not only self-regulating, but you can allow them to regulate their emotions as well. Because you'll probably likely find that if you take the lead in self-regulating your emotion there, let's say if you are in an argument, if you take the lead in actually being an observer of your thoughts, or being an observer, not of your thoughts, but being an observer of your feelings, and then acting upon that by then speaking, the person in front of you will likely do the same thing. Take a pause. Like what you said, you're going to feel that hot potato boiling inside of you, and you've got this urge to spit it out and to absolutely blabber away about what that person is making you feel, and you want to start hurling stuff at them, give it, even if it's just 1 second, because likely that's all it needs to be. It's that 1 second where you would say something, you would make a comment, you would act in a certain way. It's that 1 second where if you were to just hold, just relax, just hold for a moment, observe the feeling that you're feeling, and then act. That is a prime example of self-regulation. And bonus points if you go about it in a tone that is gentle, a tone that is willing to master what you're trying to solve here with that person, and not a tone that is condescending, a tone that is collaborative. That person will pick up on that trait of yours, that characteristic, and they will in turn regulate in accordance, or they're more likely to do so.
Being ambitious and disciplined, Jeremy, I don't want to talk about this for too long because it kind of seems obvious, does it not? Why would this be such an attractive quality for a man to have?
Well, I guess as a man, when it comes to not just attraction towards others, but it comes to attraction and love towards yourself. I want to really nail that one first, because you can't get someone to fall in love with you if you haven't.
You can't get anyone to fall in love with you.
You can't get anyone to fall in love with you if you don't have some form of a love for yourself. And I think that love for yourself as a man, and there's a lot of things that can bring you that love for yourself as a man, but a key thing that brings you that self-love as a man is having a sense of fulfillment. Not to make it really dark, but I want to just shout out something I heard Michael Smoke, Higher Up Wellness, talk about, which was, what are some of the key things you see written on a letter of a man that is going through a really tough time mentally, that is really struggling to see his place in the world? There are a couple of reoccurring words that come up on letters, on thoughts, on the way that they speak about themselves. And that is the inability to feel a sense of worth and the inability to feel a sense of purpose in their own lives. Those key things, I think, as a man can really manifest in the job, in the career that they're doing. So if you are able, and you should be able, to find something that gives you some form of fulfillment, that will therefore reinforce a sense of purpose within your life. And if we do want to provide an example being career, I was just having a friend, I just went on a walk with a friend today, and we spoke about this. We spoke about, if you don't know exactly what you want to do from a job perspective, from a career perspective, think broadly in the sense of characteristics. Don't think about what the job is, perhaps, but think about the characteristics of what that job is. And I think it comes down to providing some form of a service, whether it's a service to others, whether it's a service to one person, whether it's a service on a broad scale, like you're working in a team. But if you're providing some form of a service and you're seeing the work that you do, and you're seeing people appreciate that work that you do, that gives you a feeling of fulfillment ultimately as a person. You derive a sense of fulfillment because you feel like you've got a place in this workplace. You feel like you've got a place in making an impact on this person's life. They need you. And that positive feedback loop ultimately gives you that sense of purpose. So the fulfillment drives purpose. And if you can master that as a man, from a career perspective, then that is absolutely golden to develop that self-love for yourself before we even start to have the conversation as to what it means in terms of attracting other people, which I'll hand over to you. How does that attract other people towards you?
If that someone has a purpose and they've got ambition, and this doesn't necessarily have to be with respect to career. This could be with respect to something else, like a hobby or some form of personal development project, but it signals some sort of future planning. It signals competence, and competence is a very attractive quality in and of itself. And there's a part of us that goes, gee, I could actually be safe and stable with this person because they're trying to essentially, in the most evolutionary way possible, what are they trying to do? They're trying to elevate their status, although that might not be their primary motivation for doing so. And what happens if they've got higher status? Well, their odds of survival goes up. They've got more accumulation, a high degree of resources at their disposal. So all of that kind of communicates to us that it's like, okay, this person is really squeezing the lemon of life. And what does that mean? Well, they'll naturally have all the downstream consequences, positive consequences of that as well. So I think that's why it's really, really attractive. I mean, like, most people in relationships naturally want a partner who is reliable. And how can you tell if someone's reliable? See how consistent they are with the things that they commit to. If there's someone that is really committed to becoming, for example, the best lawyer in the world, how many times a week are they studying the bloody craft? Same if you're wanting to become the best doctor in the world. Although these are really tough ones because you're kind of forced to be by the profession. But let's think of something like an entrepreneur.
Maybe not the world, even if it's just within your workplace. How,
I know. But
how good are you at committing to the task?
100%. And it doesn't have to just be with work. This could be literally with any personal development project or a hobby, right? If you can remain consistent with something, it just signals to other people that you're reliable. And you're not just reliable to them, you're reliable to yourself. And that's how you build self-trust.
And you provide a sense of safety and security for that person. That is a key reason as to why someone would choose you at the end of the day. If we're talking long-term commitments here, which is really what we speak mostly about on this podcast when we speak about dating and relationships, if you are trying to attract that person that is going to commit to you long-term, they need to feel safe and secure with you. And that safety and security comes by them seeing that, like what you said, you are a committed, reliable, and accountable person to the task from start to finish. You're not just committing and you're not just accountable for a sub-select of a season or a few months here and there, but it's a non-negotiable. It's a non-negotiable, and you show up on a consistent basis. That is accountability, that is reliability, and that is what is going to make someone want to commit to you long-term.
100%. For this next one, it's the most stereotypical advice, but there's a reason I've chosen this, and it's being yourself. What I mean by this is you don't necessarily have to like the current version of you, but by pretending that you're someone that you're really not, the other person will know, and they will read through it, they'll smell it through that you're being inauthentic, and that's far more unattractive. Now, why is this important? Well, if I pretend that I'm someone that I'm not, I'm ultimately, again, going back to the sub-communication, just telling myself I don't really accept the current version of me. I really don't accept the current version of me to the point that I'm willing to put on a bravado facade. Now, some people will say, well, Ilan, you always talk about the importance of faking it till you make it. Yes, you fake it till you make it with regards to the person you want to become. That doesn't mean that you disregard and kind of just ignore the current version of you, because the current version of you exists. What I mean by that, how does this look practically? Well, when you're with someone, let's say you're trying to be more attractive in your interpersonal relationships, it doesn't mean starting to become the asshole dickhead guy because in your opinion they've got the most success with women. That's not true, because if you're not an asshole and you're trying to be that persona when you're not, again, people will be able to see through that. And that's a very unattractive thing. You'll also hate yourself for it at the end of the day as well. Maybe hate's a strong word, but you won't respect that decision. Ultimately, here's the really crux point. I think most of us, if we were to be really honest with ourselves, there's always a part of us that we don't like, that we would want to be better. But the difference is there's two types of people. There's the people that accept that part of them that they're not a fan of, maybe that side of them that has a bit of a laziness streak, or there's a side of them that's a bit more vindictive or cynical. And we're like, you know what, I'd love to be less of those things, but I'll accept it. And I won't beat myself up over it. And they'll acknowledge it. That's fine. But then there's another set of people that they'll deny they have it. They won't accept it. They'll say, I know I've got it, but I don't want to admit to the world that I have it. And that creates more distress. So what does that do? They are ultimately forced to take on this persona of something that they're not. And by doing that, they're not really being themselves. And I think that is one of the biggest crux bits of advice I would take on as an 18-year-old dude.
With the fake it till you make it that you speak about, I like that you've confirmed there that it's not faking it till you make it in a way in which it doesn't align with who you are and who your values and what your values are. I think faking it till you make it speaks a lot towards manifestation and embodiment and an actualization of what you want to achieve and who you want to be in the world. And that is always going to be in line with your values.
Sorry. And you're totally right. And I think I was just thinking about it. How would, if someone's confused by this, what do they mean? Well, when I say fake it till you make it, as you said, you create the values. Who do you want to be? Who is your ideal person? You can fake it till you make it to become that version that you so want to be, because it's grounded in something intrinsic. by not being yourself and taking on someone else's character, you're not really, this isn't driven by any values. This is done purely from an extrinsic motivating aspect, which is other people's perception of you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, oh, if I act this way, this person will respect me, or they'll go on a date with me, or they'll do whatever. They'll sleep with me, for example. But none of that's grounded in your own motivation.
We've spoken about the be, do, have model
we have.
many times in this podcast. And the be, do, have model absolutely goes hand in hand with being yourself. Being first. Notice how the be, do, have model, it starts with being rather than having. You don't have anything yet, and then that leads you to being a certain person. You have to be that person. You have to embody that person. So if you want to be someone that, let's just say, attracts a girlfriend, you need to be the person first that resembles the qualities that will lead to you having that girlfriend. Be, do, and then have the girlfriend. 100%. So you need to actually align with your values in doing the thing first, and then you will get it. So when people say fake it till you make it is rubbish. I think it's some of the best advice that you can give someone.
It's fantastic, assuming it's grounded by the right reason. And one thing I always do in clinic with people who struggle to truthfully be themselves, I always encourage an exercise where it's like, can you pick one person in your life where you can naturally just be who you are? You don't have to walk on eggshells with them. You can just be who you are and they'll accept you. Notice what comes up for you if you do that exercise. That is one of the best ways, because it'll also filter out the people you don't want in your life. Wouldn't that be a fantastic thing, that the people that you spend the most time with in your life are the ones that have been selectively curated by you? And you figure that out by truthfully not apologizing for who you are.
It's your Spotify wrapped on a personal level, isn't it?
That's a great way to put it. Hey, the last one, and this one's a bit more of a rogue one, but I really like this one. It could be simplified as just not being vanilla, having a bit of adventure about you, some flavor to you. And this doesn't have to be anything reckless or ridiculous, but having some sort of sauce to you. I don't know.
Yeah, I really like this one. I wonder the psychology behind it, the evolutionary psychology behind this one. Does it go back to the times of being a hunter and being a man and going out in the wilderness and going to get your food and things like that? Maybe. Being that risk taker, being that wild person, and wild person in the sense of, like you said, it doesn't mean you need to go and ride motorbikes or something like that, albeit a very, again, attractive equality for a lot of people, but having a little bit of risk taking character about yourself, having some wilderness in your nature, something about you that doesn't just speak to an audience and speak on a dinner date and speak in a social setting about your 9-to-5 job, about your university degree, something that you can speak about yourself in a sense that actually shows people a little bit of edginess about you. You've got some edge to you, like what you said, some spice, some flavor, a little bit of a difference that people can actually walk away from that conversation with you and be like, oh yeah, that geezer, he works a 9-to-5 job in corporate and he studied, commerce, law at whatever. But did you know that he does this on the side? Did you know that he loves to ride quad bikes in his spare time, or he loves to boulder and climb up walls, or he loves to make things with his hands, like maybe he likes pottery or something. I don't bloody know. I've probably given some awful examples there, but these are all things that you would walk away from that conversation and be like, hey, like that is a sticking point for me. What is the sticking point in this person's character that almost goes against the grain, that has a little bit of flair about them?
Well, nothing that you've said is actually incorrect there, but I would go a step further. I think you said, like, what's the reason this could be so attractive? And it's because you're signaling to other people, and most importantly to yourself, that you're the sort of person that's willing to take a bet on themselves. You're the sort of person that when they take a bet on themselves and they're not being reckless with it, they're taking a few calculated risks, but they're putting themselves in situations where they have to be flexible, adaptable, and they have to problem solve on the go. I'll give you an example. Someone who decides to solo travel. You're not a fan of solo traveling. I think it's actually one of the cooler things you can do. But I compare it to any sort of solo venture where you really need to compete with your own psyche. the reason I think it's a very interesting kind of example, or not even just solo travel, but it's because it kind of just encapsulates everything that we've just been speaking about. Taking a bet on yourself that you're the sort of person that can figure stuff out on their own. You're the sort of person that can be flexible when shit hits the fan. And you're the sort of person that can stand their own fucking company as well. And that's a bloody important thing. It's like, if you can't stand your own company, why would anyone else want to either, right? And the last thing I want to say about this as well is, if you want to know how to do it, this is why I'll never shit on people who decide to become runners or want to run a marathon, because they're braver than me. I couldn't think of anything worse than running for 3.5, 4 hours if I could even get a good time like that in a 42k marathon in Melbourne in October. Like, I will never shit on the people who are doing that. I respect that highly, and I respect anyone who does a venture like that where they're willing to put a bet on themselves, because it just shows you that they're not just, as you said, the sort of person that will only talk about their 9 to 5 job, the sort of person that is devoid of any hobbies. They've got some flavor to them. And I'm not putting like a moral judgment saying that they're better or worse. It's just a quality that I think is quite attractive.
Yeah, I reckon I gave some pretty poor examples before. at least those listening might think so.
Riding a motorbike. Though.
That's a cool one. But yeah, I'm going to take that back. Not poor examples. Bouldering, doing some pottery, whatever it is. But I'm going to actually simplify that, because those might be a little bit more, what people would think are perhaps rogue kind of hobbies. I was just thinking through that conversation. It's as simple as to just playing a sport.
Yes.
Just playing football. Even if people might take the mickey out of that and think, oh, okay, just talking about footy players here. But there is a reason why a lot of footy players attract a lot of women, because it's a sport. It shows that they're doing a pursuit that involves them being a little bit active, putting their bodies on the line, risk-taking, being in a slightly dangerous kind of position and sporting lens. And they're just working towards something that is fun, but is also competitive as well. And I think that goes to what it is to be a man, in a way that you're doing something that has and resembles that risk-taking and wilderness quality. So it does just go to even the simplistic kind of activities like playing footy or playing a sport.
100%. Although I would argue that most of that is just because we glorify our athletes and therefore they have the highest status mantle. And naturally, we're attracted to people who have status. That's an evolutionary quality. But with this one, man, something I even read there below, just go camping on your own. I would not want to go camping on my own. And guess what? That would be a risk.
Is that attractive on your own?
Well, you know what? It's not about the activity in and of itself. I think it's the qualities that you demonstrate by doing the activity, right?
Yeah, perhaps.
So it's like, whether you started a sport, some people might be like, okay, that's not that attractive. They're just just kicking a Sharon around. But it's about the qualities that you derive from it.
True.
But I think, again, you can extrapolate from this. Don't get too bogged down. What does it mean to have a bit of risk-taking about you and not be vanilla? If you can just have a think about that, you will come up with your own answers. Jeremy, I think these are some... I don't want to overwhelm our listenership, so I think we should wrap it up here.
Yep, I think so. So I think we've nailed about 5 or 6 qualities there to make you a naturally attractive person. And notice, not one of those were about looks. Not one of those were about your looks and how you're perceived out there in the big wide world. We have not spoken about looks there once. These are naturally attractive qualities that any man should try and strive towards resembling. And women out there, hopefully that man is there for you. He well and truly is, I believe.